Amazon has done everything they can to control the narrative about Lord of the Rings of Power, and all of it has failed. They tried to pay off influencers for good reviews. They tried to make sure the media was on their side. They went as far as locking reviews on their website for 7 days, and then trying to filter out all the bad reviews, as well as deleting reviews on Amazon-owned IMDb. The audience has seen through it all, and they have rejected it. Even when Amazon came out with this ridiculous number over the first 24 hours and said 25 million people watch Rings of Power globally in the first day, everyone looked at it and said, that's a little weird. By the way, you didn't actually say viewers, you said that they sampled it. And since that moment, since that record-breaking moment, they've been suspiciously silent about ratings for Lord of the Rings of Power. Well, that's because the reality doesn't quite match up to what Amazon has been selling. That premiere episode, we found out that House of the Dragon demolished Rings of Power. Not just by a little. We're talking about over double the viewers that Rings of Power had. That's what we had for House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon premiere beat Rings of Power by a considerable margin. 4.8 million households watched House of the Dragon those first 4 days, that first episode. For Rings of Power, 1.8 million, at least here in the United States. Well, now we have more information that's showing just how dire this situation is. Something that they spent $1 billion on for 2 seasons of Rings of Power is getting 100% destroyed by House of the Dragon. Piracy numbers shed light on House of the Dragon and Rings of Power's fantasy face-off. And I'll once again take this moment to say how wrong I was about House of the Dragon. I thought it was going to be garbage. After what we saw from Game of Thrones Season 8, after what we heard from some of the crew and cast of House of the Dragon, I thought it was going to be garbage, and I am enjoying the hell out of this. I'm looking forward to Sunday nights just to watch every next episode of House of the Dragon. Now, to be fair, if the show was bad and I hated it, it would probably be better for me because I get a lot more interaction than I do doing my live reviews. But I'm happy to be wrong about House of the Dragon, and that is the reason, likely, that it's dominating Rings of Power. And when it comes to these numbers, people have been looking at the most pirated things to say what's most in demand, because likely the most in-demand thing is going to be the most pirated thing each and every week. And now these numbers are showing just how dire the situation actually is for Amazon, because House of the Dragon is far outpacing the demand that is there for Rings of Power. HBO's first Game of Thrones spin-off, House of the Dragon, and Prime Video's Tolkien-inspired series. Yeah, inspired for sure. They talk about the numbers that they put out there, how those 25 million number didn't really make sense for Rings of Power, but people just kind of ran with it. Musso tracks global piracy and unlicensed media consumption. I got copyright struck by Musso before. I'm very familiar with them. The data analytics company doesn't share specific numbers of downloads and streams to protect client privacy. Still, it sheds some light on the online demand for House of the Dragon and Rings of Power since their respective releases. When comparing the first 7 days for both House of Dragons and Rings of Power, episode 1, the first episodes of each of these, House of the Dragon had 45% more piracy than Rings of Power across a combined view of torrent downloads and unlicensed streaming. For episode 2, this is even more worrying for Rings of Power. House of the Dragon had 127% more piracy. So Rings of Power, some people tuned in, some people, hey, let me rip this, see what it's like. I'm not going to go back to that. They decided this is garbage. I have no interest in even illegally downloading the second episode, whereas House of the Dragon continues to skyrocket. Now, people can pretend like these shows aren't in competition. They simply are. It's been so from the very beginning. We saw House of the Dragon set the release date based off when Amazon set theirs. They were pretty confident, probably because they knew the good show that they had. And Rings of Power has been a complete and total disaster. When you spend $1 billion on 2 seasons of something, you're expecting a massive global phenomenon. That is not what this has been. Right now, the numbers we have from third-party sources say that Rings of Power is just barely outpacing the demand that we saw for She-Hulk on Disney+. That is sad and that is pathetic, but that's where we're at with Rings of Power. When you decide to betray a fan base, when you decide to betray J.R.R. Tolkien, who had so many people that are invested in this world, you shouldn't be surprised when this is what happens to you. They could have had that same reaction. They could have had the same response that House of the Dragon is having right now. But they decided that they wanted to do their own thing, that they wanted to destroy the lore and the history and everything, insert their own narrative into each and every aspect of Middle-earth. People who are big Tolkien fans despise what's going on with this show, and people who aren't even that big of fans are just tuning in and saying, wow, this is boring as shit. Things continue to get worse for Rings of Power. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.